double because I get to see you. Sometimes when you do these Zooms and you're looking at screens and names, it's a different experience. So if you're there, I see some of my brothers in arms over here. I see Jeff, I see Charles, I see a whole crew here. So all right, Markman's in the house. I see there's a whole group that have been with me in battle. Ralph's on. I see there's a whole group here that have been with me in battle. And so for those guys, my brothers in arms, thanks for joining. And for everybody, thank you for being here. We're talking tonight about overcoming challenge. We're talking about how do we do that? How do we become bigger people? If you've heard this from me already, I'm sorry. I guess hopefully we can review it if you haven't. I want to share with you what's on my heart. There's a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot going on. We're going through a lot. I mean, between the virus and now there's so much happening in the world. And the question that I want to try to, in a way, broach with you with God's help tonight is, how do we become bigger people from it? There are going to be those people that are going to go through these periods of times and all they'll be doing is ducking and hoping to go back to normal. And they're going to be those people that are going to go through this period of time that are going to come out of it and they're going to be greater. They're going to be greater. There are people that are greater when challenge hits. And there are people that are smaller. And how do we sort of understand how we become part of the group that becomes greater? So allow me to share with you a story. When I spend most of my time helping companies grow. And so I'm dealing with the different corporations. And if you remember what seems like a year ago, this March, like you remember like the beginning of March, like it feels like it's like a year ago. Well, back in the old days, we had something called March Madness, which used to be like you pick a college team you never heard of and like wait for them to like hit a buzzer beater. Now March Madness is like the whole world shuts down. It's like a whole new definition of March Madness. So this year, March Madness was legit madness. And when it first hit, it was madness. Like, do you remember when it first hit? It was mad. And the world was like going out of their minds. The knife was falling. No one wanted to catch it. Companies were shutting down. And there was one particular late night. It was just every call was worse than the other. And a friend calls me and says, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't sound like yourself." I'm like, "I'm fine." He goes, "You don't sound fine." I'm like, "I'm fine." It was a long, difficult day. So he says, "Are you forgetting about the seed?" I said, "The what?" He said, "The seed. Are you forgetting about the seed?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Remember we studied that piece together about the seed?" And I remembered a year or two beforehand, I went through a piece of the writings of a rabbi who I was most moved by. I spent most of my youth running as far as I can away from Judaism. And at some point, I went to Israel and I started to study, and I found a few books, a few Sfarim, a few Jewish books, and each one had played a role in my excitement for this religion. And one of them was a book written by a rabbi named the Slonim Rebbe. And he wrote a book, and in there was his insights, and it blew me away. And in this book, there was an insight on the seed that me and my buddy, who was with me in high school, who was with me in that world, we had studied together. He goes, "Are you forgetting about the seed?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am." And he sent me a piece of the book. And I read it again, and it changed everything. I want to talk to you tonight about the seed. If you understand the seed, I think it'll help us become the people that we're meant to be. Just stick with me just for a few moments. It's like Zoom, so like you can't like jump around behind a podium. Let's digress a drop, and we'll come back with God's help. So I want to tell you a story that I read in a book, which means it must, I guess, be true. The story took place in the northwest of this country. I forgot if it was Seattle or Portland. On a beautiful morning, if you could almost picture it, on a beautiful morning in a gorgeous park, 6:15 a.m. on a random park bench, there was a sound that was disturbing the singing of the forest, of the park. Trees, the birds, it was perfect. And in this gorgeous park, there's a man in his late 40s, sitting on a park bench, sobbing, not crying, sobbing so much that it almost feels like he can't get it out quick enough, like he's wounded spiritually, in extreme emotional pain. And as he's sitting on this bench and he's like trying to gather his breath, an old man comes down the path. And the old man stops and looks at this younger guy and goes, "Are you okay?" And the guy goes, "I'm fine." He goes, "You don't look fine." He goes, "I'm fine." He goes, "You don't look fine." He goes, what is the difference? What are you possibly going to do for me?" So he goes, "I can't keep on walking. I see someone in so much pain. Can I help you with something?" He goes, "How could you help me?" He goes, "I give you an ear to listen." He goes, "You want to hear my problems?" And the old man goes, "Sure, I'll listen to your problems." He goes, "Okay, you asked for it. Have a seat." And the old man sits down next to this younger man. And he goes, "Tell me why you're crying so much for." And the young man says, "You ready?" He goes, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "A few miles from here is the town that I grew up in. My grandparents were immigrants to this country. When they came in, something went wrong in Ellis Island, and they couldn't find a way to create their family or whatever it was, and they couldn't settle down. And somehow there was an opportunity to move west, and they moved west. And somehow they ended up in a town that's just a few miles from the spot. And they got into this town, and they didn't have any money. And my grandmother and grandfather were a team to be reckoned with. And they went to the local town. They opened up a furniture store. And they were so charismatic. They were so industrious. They were so entrepreneurial that they found the best furniture. They had the right prices. People liked them. They walked in. They carried conversation. And before you know it, this town started to all shop at my grandparents' store. And they were entrepreneurs. So they went from one store to two stores. From two stores, they covered the block. Soon my grandfather figured out that if he manufactured the furniture and then town over, it was cheaper. They started growing up a manufacturing facility. And before you know it, these two little immigrants held hands and they grew a little tiny company. And they were very generous. So whatever they made above what they needed, they put back into the town. And they got involved in the school board, and they built the schools, and they built the nurseries, and they built the first fields. And the town loved them, and they loved the town. They started to grow. And they had one child, my dad. And my dad didn't go to Little League. And my dad didn't go play. He didn't go to prom. My dad didn't go to spring break. My dad didn't go to college. My dad went every day to the factory, and he swept floors, and he got involved in design. And then he sat in purchasing, and then he sat in receivables. And when my dad was in his young 40s, my grandfather calls him into his corner office and says, "Son, you're ready. Do you think you're ready to take this business over?" Because my grandfather was saying, "I want to spend time with your mother." He's telling his son, "I want to retire. I want to enjoy my grandkids. I worked my whole life. Can you take over the business?" And my father said, "You better believe I can. You got it, Dad." And my father took over the business. And as great as my grandfather was, my father, forget about it. He started opening up relationships in China. He started manufacturing internationally. He developed new catalogs of design. He built the business up double than it was before. And just like my grandfather, he put it into the community. He built a gorgeous football field. He created new science labs. He created new hospitals. And he started to employ more and more people in the town, up to the point where almost a third of the town was working somehow in a business related to my parents. I didn't go to Little League. I didn't go to college out of town. I didn't go to the spring break. You know what I did when I was growing up? I swept the floors like my dad swept the floors. I worked in design. I worked on receivables. I worked the desks. And when I was in my young 40s, my father calls me into his office and said, "When I was your age, your grandfather called me in and asked me the following question. Are you able to take over the business? I want to retire. I want to spend time with your mom. I want to see my grandkids." And I told my father, "You better believe I am." And I had dreams like you have no idea. When I started taking over this business, forget about it. We were going to open up new facilities. We were going to get involved in more sophisticated designs. I built a whole new facility I never built before. In the beginning, it looked amazing. I sat down with the town board to reconstruct the schools and to reconstruct the parks. And I invested heavily in this new way of designing things and producing things and manufacturing things. And the beginning, it looked amazing. Everything was awesome. And we kept on taking on more and more projects and more and more projects. And we didn't realize more and more debt. And all of a sudden, 2008 hit. And the bank started calling. They want their money. But I borrowed it to build. And all of a sudden, the manufacturer stopped shipping to us because we were late on payments. And then design teams stopped making designs, and the workers stopped really working. And I could barely make payroll. And I was borrowing to pay, to borrow, to pay, to borrow, to pay, to borrow. And at some point, I called my lawyer and said, what do I do? And this morning, I wake up early. I saw that I missed a call last night from my lawyers. My lawyer said, we looked at it every single way. The only recommendation we have for you is to take your company to bankruptcy. He goes, I'm about to bankrupt the company my grandfather built. I personally will ruin the lives of hundreds of people because I'm an idiot, because I'm a moron, because I'm terrible, because I thought I was bigger than I am. I walk around with this gravitas, and let me tell you something, because I expended too much, I stuck my neck out too much, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to bankrupt my grandfather's company. I'm going to take half of the town that I grew up in and lay them off. I can't even bear the burden on my soul. I can't even breathe. I'm in so much pain. And the old man looks at him and says, which manufacturers did you use in China? And the guy's like, what? Like, why? How is that relevant? He goes, wait, what banks did you use? Which debt did you have? Which bankers did you use? What were your loan terms? He goes, what was my loan terms? Are you paying attention? Who cares what my loan terms are? I'm about to bankrupt my grandfather's company. He goes, wait, what was your buy-sell ratio? When you made the goods, what was your margin? He's like, are you serious? Is this like, are you joking? Are you kidding me right now? Does it matter? Does it matter, my bankers? Does it matter, my margins? Why do you care for? And the guy looks at him. I read this in a book. The guy looks at him and says, oh, I'm sorry. Maybe you don't recognize me. I don't live around here. I live in Omaha. I vacation around here. My name is Warren Buffett. Does everybody know who Warren Buffett is? Just nod that you know, just making sure we're good. No, okay, good. He goes, you know what you do for a living? Furniture. You know what I do for a living? This business. I spend every day of the week looking at companies that are undervalued and the world goes, they're going bankrupt, and I invest in them. What I do for a living is understand companies. And let me tell you something, son. You don't got a company issue. You got a liquidity issue. Companies run out of money sometimes. When you buy a house, when you first get married and you don't have enough money, it's tight. When you have a child and you don't have enough money, it's tight. When you make investments, it gets tight. That's not a bad thing. That's what it means to be a CEO. You hit a bad patch. You're a phenomenal CEO. You think smart. Your margins are right. Your banker's taking advantage of you. That's what bankers do sometimes. You're fine. And the guy goes, thanks. Thank you. No, appreciate that. Because that's really going to help me pay my bills. And Warren Buffett goes, really? You don't believe me? Okay. And he puts his hands into his jacket pocket. And the guy goes, Mr. Buffett, please. He goes, no. And he pulls out a checkbook. And he goes, Mr. Buffett, I believe you. He goes, no, you don't believe me. Here's what we're going to do. I'm making an investment in your company. He goes, Mr. Buffett, you don't even know my company. He goes, I know businesses. I'm making an investment in your company. And here's what I am so sure. I'm going to hand you now $1 million. He goes, Mr. Buffett, come on, Mr. Buffett. He goes, and not only that, in 1 year from today, I vacation the same time every year. In 1 year from today, I will meet you on this park bench, and I know you'll give me back my $1 million with a 25% return. Do we have a deal? And man goes, you want, wait, Warren Buffett is doing it. Wait, Warren, for real? And he rips off the check and goes, do we got a deal? And he goes, no, for real. Do we have a deal? He goes, you better believe we have a deal. He grabs the check, he jumps on him and like, I'm sorry, sir. I'm good. And he gets up, the old man, and he walks away. And the guy doesn't walk back to his office. He floats back to his office. He comes into his office. He's like, I met Warren Buffett. No, I really, you don't believe me? Look at the check. Look at the W. I got to tell you someone showed me that on eBay, Michael Jordan years ago wrote a check to someone for like $4. And like on eBay, it's going for like $3,000. You know what I'm saying? Like it has Michael Jordan. Anyone who's a Michael Jordan fan knows this. It has like Michael Jordan's, he wrote it. And this guy's walking around the office going like, I met Warren Buffett. They're like, yeah. No, I really did. He doesn't live here. No, really, look. And he's looking at signatures. I was like, no way. Is that really him? And everyone's like studying it and he can't believe it. And he's showing it to the office and he realizes, oh my God, I don't have money to pay my bills. So he gets in the car, he goes to the bank and he now goes to the teller and he hands the teller the check. And as he hands the teller the check, his hand won't let go of the check. And they're like, I kind of need the paper. He goes, no, you know what? I'll be back. They're like, are you okay? I'll be, just give me an hour. He goes back to it and says, I can't give it in. No one's going to believe me. I got to call my dad. I got to call my mom. I got to call my father-in-law. I got to show my wife. I got to show my kids. Like, this is Warren Buffett we're talking about here. So he goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check in the morning. Big deal. I'll just deposit in the morning. We go one more day. He goes into the house. They have dinner. His wife, his children, the Warren Buffett check. They all sit around. He look at it. He shows it to them. He sleeps. He puts it on his mantle. He can't believe it. Warren Buffett. He's studying the W. Maybe that's why he's so rich. Maybe the B's big. Maybe that's why he's so rich. And he wakes up in the morning and he gets in his car and he's about to go to the bank. And as he's about to go to the bank, he can't pull in. He just can't pull in. There's some more people that don't know about it yet. What if somebody calls? He got to take a picture of it. So he goes, you know what? I'm 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. What's one more day? What's one more day? Goes into his office, he puts it on his mantle, on right his computer, and he's got till 5 o'clock. He got $1 million in his pocket. It's till 5 o'clock. He sits back, picks up the phone, and he calls his manufacturers in China and goes, oh, by the way, I understand that we haven't done business together, but let me tell you something. I'm back, and you have a choice. Either you're with me or you're not. Choose it right now because I could find 10 manufacturers that will manufacture my goods. So either we make a deal, we change the prices, or I'm going to move on. And the guy goes, no, don't move on so quickly. Let's talk about it. I'm happy to. Okay, I understand business is tough. Let's do a deal. Okay, I'm in. And he hangs up the phone and goes, okay. He goes up his banks and goes, really? You want to be in the manufacturing? You're going to foreclose on my properties? You want to be a furniture manufacturer? Guess what? You want to be a bank, and you make more money when I'm in business. So how about we look at the loan terms and restructure drop? And the banker goes, no, yeah, I was going to call you because we're partners. No, I want you to win. And he goes, all right, let's talk about restructuring the loans. And I was like, absolutely, let's put this on the calendar for next week. And he hangs with the phone and goes, oh my gosh, I felt good. I'm back, baby. Gets up, he sees that the warehouse guys are hanging around. He goes, what are you guys hanging around for? They're like, well, sir, he goes, come on. You think we're going down? My grandfather started this company with 2 nickels. We're not going down because life got a little hard. Pick your heads up. The guy's like, you're right, sir. Our bad. He walks out. The guy's like, what got into the boss? Walks into the design room and goes, why is everyone on their computers? He's like, I want 5 designs in my office by the end of the week, and I want them to be amazing. And he comes out, and everyone's like, all right, let's do it. And he starts walking the halls, and I don't know what happened. Something changed in him. He's calling new clients. He's making new deals. He's sitting at his desk. He feels like he hasn't felt this way since he just took over the business. And the clock turns 4:30 before he had to go to the bank. And as the clock turns 4:30, he's like, I got to go bring in the check. And he gets an idea. I'm not cashing that check. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go the year and I'm going to give Warren Buffett back his original check. Warren Buffett has invested in lots of companies, but how many companies never cashed his check? I'm going to turn this baby around, and I'm going to come to him in a year from now with an original check, and I'm going to ask him for $50 million. I'm sure the guy was Jewish. Year goes in, he sits down, and as soon as that idea crept into his head, like somebody lit a fire underneath him. He woke up 5 o'clock in the morning. He's drawing ideas in his sketchbook. He comes to work. He's looking at designs. He's pushing them to get stronger. He's calling up manufacturers. He's renegotiating loans. He's changing new customers. He's calling all day. He's on fire. He's going to stand in front of Warren Buffett and hand him back his original check. That is the ultimate legend move. A day, a week, a month, he's got enough money to make payroll just from the revenue he's bringing in, just from the loans he restructured. Another month. The company's turning around a little bit. His lawyers are like, what just happened? Another month. They're making money again. 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 months later, the company's profitable again. In fact, the company's in a position that it had never been in before. They're cleaner, they're leaner, they're smarter. He's never felt better. 11 months and 29 days later, he's sitting at his desk and he can't believe what a year has done to him. He just can't believe it. He looks at his desk and there's that check of Warren Buffett in that glass case. He smiles as he pulls the glass case out of the check out of the glass case and puts it in his pocket for tomorrow's meeting. He pulls out his own checkbook, writes a check for 25% of that million, puts it in his jacket pocket. He puts on his jacket. He slowly tucks in his chair. He closes the lights of his office. He just can't believe what a year brought. That company almost went bankrupt. Now it's never been stronger. He goes home. He has dinner. He goes to bed. His eyes can't close a wink. 2, 3, 4 in the morning. He's not sleeping. 5 a.m., 5:30, he gets up. He gets dressed. He goes to the park. He sits on that bench. He's whistling on that bench. 6 o'clock on the dot, the old man shows up. He can barely hold it in. He jumps up. He goes, Mr. Buffett, Mr. Buffett, Mr. Buffett. And the guy goes, yeah. And he goes, Mr. Buffett, me? The guy's like, yeah, I don't know. He goes, you don't know who I am? He goes, no, who are you? He goes, don't you remember? He's like, no, I don't remember, son. Like, I don't meet a lot of people. He goes, don't you remember a year ago? He goes, no, remind me. He goes, the store. He goes, the furniture store. He goes, the furniture store. My grandpa. He goes, yeah, you're going bankrupt. He goes, yeah. He goes, didn't I give you money? He goes, yeah. You have a minute? He goes, sure. He goes, how'd you do, son? He goes, how did I do? How did I do? Oh, watch this. Because you got a sack? Let me tell you how I did. Mr. Buffett, you've never seen this before, but I'm about to give you something you never had before. He goes, sure, what are you giving me? He pulls into his pocket to take out the original check in that glass case. And as he takes out that check, 2 young guys in white outfits come running up to him and they go, sir, is this old man bothering you? And he goes, excuse me, you two. This old man happens to be none other than the Warren Buffett. And the guys say, what? That's Warren Buffett? You see past those trees? There's a nursing home past those trees. And we teach our residents something called method acting. Method acting is when you get into the character. And Bob loves to play Bob. Method acting is not for outside the home. It's only for inside the he just loves Warren Buffett. I mean, wait, did you give him one of your $1 million checks? Did you cash that check? Because the last guy who cashed that check ended up in prison. Did you cash a check? He goes, no, I apparently didn't cash any checks. He goes, whew, thank God, because that's fraud. Because Bob, when we talk about method acting, I know, I'm sorry. I just like playing I'm sorry. What do you say to the young man, Bob? And Bob gets up and goes, I'm sorry, son, but I'm sure whatever you did was really great. And the guy goes, thanks, Bob. And Bob goes walking off. And I heard that story years ago, and something has bothered me ever since. What in the world happened to the guy? His company's going bankrupt. He meets the fake Warren Buffett, and he gets nothing from it. He doesn't give him any money. He doesn't give him any advice. He doesn't tell him, check out the loan documents because you can renegotiate it this way. He doesn't say, use my contacts and call Jimmy at Bank of America and he'll give you a better loan. He doesn't give him any money. The guy sits down with fake Warren Buffett and he wanted more than anything in the world for his company to not go bankrupt. When he leaves fake Warren Buffett, He has nothing. So how come he was able to turn around his company for? What in the world happened? He didn't want to turn it around before? He wanted his company to go bankrupt? He wasn't trying his hardest? He wasn't thinking every second of his day how he can make it better? What? The fake guy shows up and says, what did he do for him? And something magical happened? And when he met him, what happened? How was he able to do it? He didn't get anything from him. Fake Warren Buffett didn't give him anything. So what changed? So I want to tell you guys something. And for my brothers in arms who've been with me in Israel, this is going to sound somewhat familiar. I want to teach you, in my opinion, the core of where greatness comes from. He got one thing from the fake Warren Buffett. The most important thing you can get from somebody. Every one of us has two diametrically opposed dimensions to who we are. We have a body that navigates this world. The body that we have is designed to enable us to survive. Survival is a world unto itself. But we have something else. People will go their whole lives and never fully appreciate this. But if you do, it'll change you. If your eyes are open right now, the reason why your eyes are open right now isn't because you're a sophisticated computer that all the parts clicked in and somebody pressed the light switch. The reason why your eyes are open right now is because what's inside you is a ray, a piece of the divine. At the core of Judaism is the understanding that God is not up there. He is in everything. And that means that me and you, I don't care how religious or not religious, how connected or not connected, I don't care your background, all that stuff. You have more spirituality inside you than you'll ever need your whole life. You never have to become spiritual. You have to reveal what's inside already. It's in the factory settings. No matter your background, no matter you feel it, don't feel it, what you have inside you is a piece of the divine. You're in many ways indestructible. The divine soul doesn't go down, doesn't get jealous, it's not threatened, it's not disempowered. It can overcome anything. And by the way, you know who sort of senses this more than anything in the world? Kids. That's why the strongest species we have in the world today, what is the strongest species we have in the world today? 3-year-olds. You ever mess with a 3-year-old? You got no shot against a 3-year-old. That 3-year-old will go 15 rounds. He won't even break a sweat. You ever give a 3-year-old a cookie? What happens next? He goes, I have another hand, and you go 1 per customer. So he looks at you and goes, I will stand here for the rest of my life until you give me a cookie. What does every adult do? Cookie right away. To an adult, the greatest gift you can get in your life is an hour more of sleep, right? You ever wake up an hour before you should? And you're like, oh my God, it's 6. Oh, I was looking up at 7. I have 1 more hour. Could God give you a better gift than an hour more of being unconscious? To a 3-year-old, he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's ready to roll. I'm up. You kidding me? You ever watch a 3-year-old go shopping? I mean, come on. You can have a Passover Seder with 50 people. 3-year-olds in a bad mood. Everyone's killing each other. Nothing gets in the way of a kid. They don't care about race. They don't care about gender. They don't care about politics. They don't bother themselves with the stuff that we bought. They're too busy doing stuff. You'll never see a bunch of 2-year-olds sitting at a park being like bored because they did slide twice. And does anybody have a phone that I can scroll on Instagram on? Are you kidding me? A 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, they're playing with rocks, and all of a sudden they're explorers. You give them spoons and they're ready to roll. They don't get upset. They don't get annoyed. Watch a 1.5-year-old learn how to walk. They're a clown show. If we would do it, we try twice, we'd crawl into a car. We never do it again. We'll be like, well, maybe I'm not born to walk. It's not my thing. A 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, they'll do it 1,000,000 times. They're not embarrassed. They'll cry and laugh in the same 5 minutes. They don't care. You know why? Because when you're young, your brain isn't formed really much that yet. And you have this soul that like overwhelms your body. And you sort of sense that there's something about me that's special. You don't got to tell a 2-year-old that you're special. They're like, what are you even talking about? Just, can you give me the toy? They sort of know the challenge is nothing for them. You could tell a 3-year-old, yes, you can. The kid's like, what are you even saying? Of course I can. Because they sense it. Their brains haven't said otherwise. They sort of sense this feeling of I can do anything. They're like raw little souls that come into this world. They're honest. They're real. They're raw. The whole world is their oyster. They're not bored. They don't gotta multitask when someone's talking to them. They're okay knowing that I'll pay attention to you as long as I can. And then you're boring, I'll just walk away. And then something happens. Watch this. If you can, stick with me a little while longer. I know it's in the Zoom world, it's harder and harder. Just stick with me. I'm scrolling, watching all you guys. So for those who have your videos on, thank you. As I'm talking, I'm scrolling, looking at you, looking at everybody. So thank you for that. It means a lot. Thank you for this. Thank you, Yeste. Here's how it works. Stick with me for a few more minutes. For my brothers, you'll hear this before. One of the greatest gifts we have in our brain is something called a schema. What is a schema? A schema is a filter. That's what it is. If you have a filter in your home for water, basically it's a mechanism that pulls away all the extra stuff that you don't need so that you have the water that is the clearest. Your brain has one. Your brain has a filter. When you walk through your day, the stimuli that comes at you is so great that if you took it all in, you would melt. If me and you walked down the street and took in everything, every honking of a car, every tire moving, the person on the phone, people talking, if you'd walk down the street and taken everything around you, the amount of, it'd be like a fire hose of stimuli, you would melt. You couldn't think, you couldn't be you. So what you have in your brain is this incredible gift called a schema. And what it does is it filters out most of the world. Most of the world, me and you have never experienced. Because if we did, we couldn't do anything else. So basically your brain, it's the greatest gift. Your brain basically takes in all this information and on its own says, this is relevant, this is not. You need to see this, you don't need to see this. So when me and you go shopping in the supermarket, we can walk down an aisle and try to find things off our list. If you have or know someone who has a child with sensory processing disorder, they take in too much information, you know, when you bring them to the supermarket, they melt. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not being spoiled. Their brain just takes in too much information. So when me and you walk down the aisle, our brain heard 2 aisles down, a squeaky wheel on a cart, but our brain took the sound in and didn't let it into our conscious mind because the brain automatically said, it's not relevant and it's not dangerous. You don't need it. And it allowed us to focus on that list because I don't have to deal with the sound. And I don't have to deal with the fact that a cereal box fell 2 aisles down. I don't have to deal with the fact that in the distance, there's a passive aggressive husband telling his wife, there is no oregano. Oh, here it is. I'll be home in 15 minutes. I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. All that information comes into my ears and just blocks. It's an amazing thing that we have. It's a filter. Where does the filter come from? Watch this. Your filter basically is 2 things. Things that are dangerous and things that are relevant. Watch this. Okay? You're 3. You, me and you, we were once 2. There's great research done on creativity. When they get, everyone I'm sure heard of the paperclip study. You guys heard of the paperclip study? Just nod yes or no. The paperclips, they give paperclips to the kids in kindergarten. They say, come up with uses. And if you come up with like 5, you're like good. If you come up with like 10, you're like a genius. And like 98% of all kindergarten kids came up with like 95 uses or some high number. They tested for over 90% of kindergarten kids are considered to be a genius for creativity. They gave the exact same test. It's a longitudinal study when the kids were in 8th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade. And then as adults, that number went from like 98% creative to 2% creative. That same guy when he was 2, when he was 3, he was creative. Now that he's 42, what happened? This is what happened. Me and you were once kids. And we had this soul ready to rock and roll. The world couldn't take us down. And our brains, our schema wasn't developed yet. And then we went into the world. You know what the world told us? Relax. Relax. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. This is what's important. These things are important. And if you do these things well, we're going to tell you you're important. We're going to give you letters to show you that you're important. School's important. I'm all into school. My kids are all in school. Life's important. But and there's a lot of good. Let me tell you how the brain functions. And it happens to be that in your class, there's somebody next to you who you're friends with who was born with the ability to memorize better than you. So for the first 8 years of your schooling, your best friend and you're telling yourself, well, I'm not that smart. And mom and dad are like, yeah, you are. You're like, ah. Then you go into the work and to mom and dad, you're beautiful, but I don't know. You go to school and they'd say, hey, you see those screens? See the screens? Those people are beautiful. If you look like the people on the screens, you get an extra bonus for it. If you dress, yeah, you get a pop. It's you get to be more popular. You see this thing called fast twitch? If you were born bigger or your muscles move quicker, you get to play sports. And you know what happens when you get to play sports? In our world, you get more. You get a bonus for it. It's called popularity. That little kid, they can do anything. Now he says, whoa, wait a second. I'm not so smart. I'm not so funny. Maybe I can't. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that thing. I thought it was funny, but what if I look stupid? I don't think this is right, but everyone else is doing it. I thought I was, and even if you got mom and dad saying, you're great. You ever anyone who has parents and kids, you ever find yourself fighting with your kids and you say you're greater than they are? You're like, you're amazing. And like your kid's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, wait, you're fighting with me about how not great you, like, how is this even a conversation? Why aren't you like, thanks for noticing? You ever call your parents and like they're telling you how great you are and you think like, what are you talking about? Where does that come from? You didn't have it at 2. Let me tell you what's happening. Your schema is sending you signs. No, you can't. You're not so great. You want to be accepted? Here's what you got to do. Play by these rules. Do this thing. You need this. Here's the treadmill of life. If you get this at this age, you're successful. If it takes you longer, these schools, these schools, oh. What are you doing for a living? Oh. What do you want to do for a living? Thanks. Everything we do. You can never be perfect to everybody. And then your brain starts developing a schema. You know what that schema is? You're not so great. It's not so great. Maybe you can't. What if you fail? I don't know. What if I'm vulnerable? What if she says no? What if I can't do that? I'm already too old. I love this one. I'm already too old. You change when you're young, or you settle down when you're older. And you start spitting back some of the things that your little microsociety gave to you. And then you know what ends up happening? You face a challenge. And you look at that challenge and you can't see you. Your schema blocks who you are. Your schema blocks what you can do, who you can be. And you look and go, I can't do that. You can have everyone looking at you going, what are you, crazy? She's amazing. And you go, You ever read stories of incredible people who thought they weren't enough? And you're like, what? How could they think that? How could Chris Farley think he's not the funniest guy in the world? How could Michael Jordan, anyone who's watching The Last Dance now, which is one of the greatest documentaries ever, how could Michael Jordan think that when Byron Russell gives him some trash, what? He's Michael Jordan. Because the schema, mine and your schemas, look out in the world. You know what we don't see? We don't see a life governed by, of course I can. Or a life governed by, I'd rather try every day of my life than ever have a regret that I didn't try hard enough. We're not governed by that unadulterated soul anymore. That schema is filled with all the what I'm not. You know what that guy got from the fake Warren Buffett? He didn't get any money. He didn't get any advice. You know what he got? He got someone that saw him for who he was. Someone looked at him and says, you don't got a company issue. You got a liquidity issue. You're a great CEO. Here's a guy with all this potential, all the knowledge, all the ability, missing one thing. His schema said, "You're a failure." And as soon as he said that, there was like a wool over his eyes. And all he saw was what he couldn't be. And all that fake Warren Buffett did was say, "Yes, you can. You're an incredible CEO." And he lifted something off his eyes. He enabled him to see something in himself that he never saw before. Fake Warren Buffett gave him more than money, gave him more than advice. He gave him himself. He gave him who he was. The greatest gift we have is our eyes. And if we spend our lives using our eyes, looking for who's going to hook us up, we become very empty people. When we use our eyes with, how is she making me feel? How can I outplay this person? When can I win? We're missing it. You know how we have eyes for? Because our eyes are supposed to look at somebody else and go, "I see you. You're incredible. Do you know what you're really great at? Can I tell you something? You've always been there for me." Our eyes are like keys that can open up the schemas of those people around us. We don't got to give them stuff. We're giving them themselves. We're cleaning a piece of them that they just can't see. So many people are walking around life, they're accessing a fraction of their potential. They're regurgitating the same stuff that they hear, whether it's on the news or on Forbes or on Inc. magazine. They're just reciting the same 7 or 8 lines in business or this. It's the same stuff. They can't get into here because they're scared. They're not sure. Someone around looks at you and goes, "You know who you are? You know what you're amazing at? You can do anything." When you see the people around you, you know what you're doing? You're cleaning their schemas. You're giving them the greatest gift in the world. You're giving them the ability to see themselves. You're giving them the ability to dig back to that 3-year-old heart. You know, when Joseph was sold to Egypt, his brothers brought him down, went down to find him, and then he was the palace. Remember that story? And he ended up taking Benjamin. And he was testing to see if the brothers would fight for Benjamin. And when the brothers were fighting for Benjamin, one of the brothers said, "How am I going to go back up to my father?" In Hebrew, it's "Ich ele el avi." Without the boy. In Hebrew, it's "V'hanar einenu iti." How can I go back to my father Jacob without the boy Benjamin? And the rabbis say, you know, the deeper meaning of that is that we're telling ourselves, God handed us a 3-year-old heart. The boy is us, the girl, that little heart. How am I going to go back to my father in heaven after 120 years and I didn't bring the heart of the child with me? How did I become so old that I don't have the youthful heart of I can do it? Why can't I? Challenge is drawing out my strength. I have an intangible resource of power inside me. It only comes out with challenge. The last thing I want is comfort. Comfort only allows me to be slower and more complacent. It's challenge that makes me who I am. You know why we don't do that for? Because our schema says you can't. And when you look around at the people around you and you see it in them, you light something up in them. You ever have that teacher, that like 4th grade teacher that like saw something in you? You know what I'm talking about? That teacher that like, I don't know, every time you were around them, or like that coach, that person in your life that just looked at you differently. They're unlocking something inside you. That's the gift you can give to somebody else. That's the gift you can give to everybody else. I had this once in my life. I remember when I was in high school, I was a really bad kid in high school. I ended up being a lawyer because my options were either going to jail or representing guys in jails. There was nothing else in my future. And they had this thing called seminar. For those of you familiar with Flatbush, seminar was the biggest deal in the world. They had seniors basically bring these freshmen in school pride, and almost everyone went to seminar except for the troubled kids. I'll never forget the day that they posted the seminar list. I couldn't sit, but I was a good kid. I played basketball. I was a good kid. I just couldn't sit. I'll never forget the day where it came out. The list came out of all the people that went. I'll never forget this my whole life. It's me and 120 of my closest friends right now, right? We're all brothers and sisters now. And I saw the list, and I wasn't on it. I was a senior in high school. I was very tough, but something broke me right then and there. I always thought the school knew that I was a good kid. I couldn't sit. Kids can't sit. I don't know. You may be one of them. You may be raising one of them. There are people that just can't sit. I was one of them. I always thought the school knew. It's a good kid. Just can't sit. But when I didn't make the list, I'll never forget. I said to myself, maybe I'm a bad kid. I remember standing there, senior in high school, looking up at the board going, maybe I'm a bad kid. Maybe they see something in me that I thought I was a good kid. Man, I got the whole thing wrong. I call my mom, like, I gotta go home. She's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I gotta go home. I'll never forget it. I was out for the day. Out. Thinking to myself, like, I'm such a moron. Like, I thought I was a good kid. I guess I'm a bad kid. 8:00 at night, I get a phone call. My teacher from 9th grade, I was in 12th grade, has the same last name as the principal of the school. My wife goes, Rabbi so-and-so. I'm like, Rabbi so-and-so, I wasn't even in school today. Like, how did I get in trouble already? I picked the phone. I'm like, I didn't do it. It's not my fault. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors. Like, I'm already going on the routine. And he's like, no, it's not my dad. It's me. He was my 9th grade elective teacher. Can you imagine? Think about it. I was a 12th grader. He goes, this is before cell phones. It means he had to like actually pick up a phone that was attached to a wall and dial numbers. He goes, I passed by the board today. I saw your name wasn't on it. Man, they don't know you. You're a good kid. They don't get you. Just want you to know that. 3 minutes. Changed my life. My next 50 decisions were based on that one teacher's 3-minute call. You know why? Because he saw me. Because he used his words to see me. You want to know what we can do, me and you? We can see people. We can light up the world around us. We can use our eyes to see the greatness in everything around us. And you know what happens when you do that? You start to train your eyes to see deep. And you know what happens when you do that? You look in the mirror one day, and you know what you see? A different person. You see, we think the way we become greater is when we focus on ourselves. You know it's not that way. You know it's not that way. You know that God did not create a world that the selfish ones win. We know that. You know how we get it? The more we see greatness in others, the more we condition it and see it in ourselves. I'm going to end with the seed, and I'll close. The rabbi says, listen to this brilliant, I'm telling you this thing, blew me away. I'll close with the rabbi, the Slonimer Rebbe, the Siva Shalom. He says, if you put a seed in your hand, you have something. It's small, but it's something. It's a seed. If that seed gets dropped in the ground and you're looking at it, you know what happens? It looks like you have less, right? You had a seed. It was little, but it was something. But when the seed goes in the ground, the shell falls away. And now you don't even have that. As the shell falls away from the seed, you have nothing. He goes, but in fact, when the shell falls away from the seed, it unleashes a life force that is going to not only create a seed, it's going to create a tree and fruits and thousands of seeds. There are two types of people in this world. There are those people that see the shell falling away and they say, I have less. And there are those people that see the shell falling away and go, I have everything. It depends on one thing. Do you look at shells or do you look at life forces that are within it? That's life. There's a lot of people that look at shells. We're living in a world where most people many people look at shells. How you look, how you talk, how much money we have, where you're in life. We judge ourselves by our shells. In fact, we're so focused on making sure my shell looks good because I'm so scared that when people look at my shell, they're going to think less of me. Then there are those people that look at the life force that's within it. It's who they are. They look at that friend, they look at that situation, they look at that news, and they're just looking for the life force. They're looking for the potential. They're looking for the greatness. Those people change the world. It's those few people that power thousands. That teacher, I never said thank you to him. I gave a speech about it 2 summers ago. It reminded me who it was. I didn't even remember the teacher. I see him CVS in my community. I like tackled him. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't even remember it. It's who he was because he saw it in every student. We got a choice. This is it. Look around. It's not practice anymore. This isn't a fire drill. We're in the game of life now. This is the championship game. Look what we dealt with for the past month. We're not playing around anymore. We just went through crisis to the next crisis. We're going to do this forever until a bunch of people wake up and go, wait a second. It's time to see what's on the inside and build our children this way and build our friends this way and build our communities this way. And my blessing to each and every one of you. Thanks for being with me here. You should be this person. You should be that person that when you go through your whole life, people when they see you, when people hear your name, you know that feeling you got when that coach looked at you or that parent looked at you, that smile? They should say that about you. That guy, her, I don't know. Something around when I was around it. I don't know what it was. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know. That feeling. I don't know. There's something about them. They just bring out the best in people. They just see the best in people. And if we do that for others, there's no question in my mind. That'll be us. There'll be no challenge that will be stopped by. No mountain high enough. No, ain't no mountain high. How's the song go? I don't remember. But I'm sure you guys are singing it with me. To keep me away from you. That's it. Guys, I love you. God should bless you all. Thanks for listening to me, to my brothers, to all you guys. What can I say? I wish I was with you. My only blessing is the next time we do this, maybe we'll do it in the streets of Jerusalem, and maybe HLA will pick up the table, stay at the Waldorf. It'll be amazing. We'll have awesome Israeli breakfast. We'll have great times in the big rooms. Right, Markman will handle the bill. It'll be amazing. Right, Jeff? Am I right? May we do this next time in Jerusalem together. I love you so much. Have a great night.
Ready.
Thank you so much.
Rabbi, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
so much.
Thank you, guys.
Beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Charlie.
you. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Great
Thank
job.
you, guys. Thank you.
Amazing.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm loving this. Thank you, guys. Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks,
This is my
Charlie.
thumbs up midway. For those who gave me thumbs up midway, I love it. I'm looking around and seeing thumbs up. I love it. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, Charlie.
It was incredible.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for saying what we needed to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good inspiration.
I loved it.
Thank you, guys.
There was some part about Warren Buffett. I missed everything after the Warren Buffett beginning. Can you start again? Missed all that. Everybody.
Oh, bye, guys. Love you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
So sorry.
Thanks for staying up past midnight.
My pleasure. Anytime.
So much.
Thank you. Night over.
Thanks, Charlie.